morning and welcome to the next episode of Level Up Cyber. I am your host, Tony Bryan, the Executive Director of CyberUp. Very excited to have everybody again today. And I'm very excited about today's guest, Debbie McLeod. Debbie's a friend. We have the pleasure of co-chairing the NICE National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education Apprenticeship Community of Interest and have had come to grow an admiration, a fondness for Debbie and her husband, Rodney, and all the things that they have done over the last several years. So, Debbie, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Tony, for having me. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, so today we're going to dive in just a little bit around the idea of apprenticeship and applications and usage around small businesses. So it probably makes a lot of sense to start off by just, introducing yourself and a little bit more about the business that you run.
Okay, so I am Debbie McLeod. I am the president and co-owner of McLeod Information Systems here in Charleston, South Carolina. Prior to that, my former life, I was an elementary education teacher, and I'm a strong advocate for students and giving them opportunities to excel, especially those from underserved populations. We have a cybersecurity business here in the Charleston area where I set up the apprenticeship program for them, for the company, and we just had 2 apprentices who are finishing up the program, and we're getting ready to start preparing for a next cohort to come through.
That's awesome. Now, I understand the ins and outs of your apprenticeship and how you guys had structured it. So, and I think there's a lot of, I'm going to say misconceptions or maybe misnomers there, right? That this apprenticeship thing, because I know with the sprint in 2022, there was a lot of emphasis that was put on just large businesses, right, that jumped into the apprenticeship. But, I think, what you guys have done has been a great example of how it's applicable for a small to mid-sized business. So do you mind diving in a little bit about the specifics of how you guys structured your apprenticeship?
No, I don't mind at all. As a matter of fact, I think it would be helpful to, especially small businesses and medium-sized businesses, to give them a little food for thought, per se, because a lot of times you can be intimidated by what the bigger businesses are doing, but it really is, honestly, in my opinion, more applicable for a small business and a medium-sized business to use an apprenticeship program.
So for your apprentices, where did you recruit your apprentices from?
Multiple places. First, I went to the high school, which was a Title I high school that was near our business. I knew that there were a lot of students in that school who most oftentimes are not even presented with opportunities. So I went there. And then I approached Trident Technical College, and at that time we were partners with a foster out program here in the local area. So I talked to one of the counselors there, and one of our apprentices actually came from that foster out group home.
Nice. So when you guys structured it, right? So oftentimes when we're having conversations with employers or doing outreach, right, there really are 3 core aspects of apprenticeship, right? There's the related training instruction where that individual is continuing to get skills. There's a mentorship aspect, and then there's the actual job portion itself where that person's earning while they learn or learning while they earn an income. How did you guys structure your related training instruction that you provided for your apprentices?
So here in the state of South Carolina, Apprenticeship Carolina and the technical school system have a pretty good, they're all part of what they call the SC Tech system. And there is a huge pool of money that they have applied for through grants. So with our local technical college, the opportunity for them to get their associate's degree, they could go through Trident Tech, and through that program, all of their schooling was paid for. So they got to go to school for free for that, for their associate's degree. And then in the office, we had set up where there's so many hours per week that they get time with the mentor to explain what they're doing. And then the rest of the week, they're applying this. We have a virtual lab. So everything that they do, once they have learned, whatever it may be, they will also take and work on this virtual lab to make sure that they fully understand that process before they work on anything that's live.
Yeah, and then on the mentorship side, you mentioned it just now that they received some of that mentorship through the education process, but I know that you and Rodney spent a lot of time with your apprentices. What type of specific things did you guys do collectively for your apprentices?
For cybersecurity, it becomes this wide range, as far as, because Rodney had built out this whole program from the beginning all the way through the end. When they first come in, they're given a brand new laptop, and they're given steps of instruction how to set up their laptops. And once they have done that, and they are good with that, then when an employee leaves and we have to wipe it, they're responsible. After they're taught how to wipe it, they're responsible for wiping it. And then if someone new comes in, they're responsible for setting that computer up. So at the very, very beginning, they learn those basics. When it comes to like the networking portion, as they're learning about networking, we have this huge spool of wire and the little end pieces, the little plugs. And so they have to build the network cables. Whenever we moved office, last year we moved office locations, and we had them go in and do all the wiring for the new office so that they had good hands-on practice with that. So they get that instruction, they learn it, and then we make sure that there's ways for them to apply it in some sort of environment. But that's just a couple examples of how we do that.
And then just for the type of work, right? So I'm familiar with what McLeod does, but what type of work does your business do, and the type of projects you had apprentices work on?
So typically, our bread and butter is government contracting. And with government contracting, the contract that we had, you had to have security clearances, so they weren't allowed to work on that contract. However, the mentors could take and give them I don't want to say take what they had been working on, but bring maybe some snippets of information that are not classified and present real situation scenarios. How would you navigate this, and how would you navigate that? So they had those opportunities as much as we could allow, given the security issues of how much information you can share. And then we have contracts with nonprofits and other small businesses. One of the things that we had them working on this past year was doing a system security plan for a nonprofit. What are the steps? What do you need to do? How do you follow those steps? And help build out that system security plan. We brought them into the business, had them sit down, had the business explain what it is they're wanting, get the necessary information of, what the equipment is on the premises, how do people utilize the equipment, And the other, there's a spreadsheet that they follow with different questions that they need to have that information for the system security plan. And then they bring that information back and start building out the system security plan.
So as you guys looked at, because there's lots of ways in which you could have hired, right? There's recruiters and staffing firms, just direct collegiate, going and finding college students that are out there. What was it that attracted you guys to look to apprenticeship as the right way for you guys to grow your workforce?
I'm probably going to step on some toes with this one, so we'll just dive in here. What made us look at that is, of course, my background in education and my strong belief in opportunities for everyone. And then you take into also, I am married to someone who is ADHD, and then my daughter was also ADHD, and watching, and they're both dyslexic. So watching them, how they navigate life, how you start getting this greater appreciation for the fact that not everyone is book learning is not for everyone, but hands-on learning is something that these, especially students who have disabilities, they really thrive a lot of times in these hands-on environments. And knowing this, and then also my husband, 20 years in the Air Force, 20 years in government contracting, he had seen so many times where the government would have, they have to have a bachelor's degree or they have to have their master's degree. And they would hire the student fresh out of college who knew nothing about how to do the work. And so now you just increase the workload for those who are there, because not only do they have the work that they're doing, but they also now have this responsibility for training this student who met the so-called criteria who cannot do the job. And then you throw in the workforce shortage gap, and it was becoming more and more and more and more difficult to hire. We just decided for our company, we'll just build our own pipeline, and we'll hire those that we can train, that honestly just get the concept, and we'll just, build our own pipeline. And so I, at the time, didn't even realize when we registered our apprenticeship program that we were the first in the state of South Carolina. I had no idea, because it just made such natural common sense to me that apprenticeships is a great way to bring in talent and to build your talent. I just assumed everybody was doing it, and I found out otherwise.
Well, I think so. Something you said there really stuck out to me. So, and I have more understanding of just all the things that you both have been working on for the past couple of years, just from an intention that you just described of we want to give individuals that maybe not have a chance at this industry, let's build a pathway or a mechanism for them to be able to jump into it, and had, just that alone had great success with the program for your company. But there's also been kind of secondary byproducts of these things that have happened for both of you, right? I think of, just the leadership role that you and I play for NICE, right? Those were things that I don't imagine that was what you intentionally kind of aimed for when you guys made this program. I was like, man, see a need, fill a need. This works for us, and it combines your passion. So you've had some really fun experiences over the last couple of years, I think, through this apprenticeship, right? And we'll start with the one you just mentioned around just the fact that you guys were the only program in the state of South Carolina. So that's opened up a lot of doors for and opportunities for you in the business. Do you care to elaborate some of the cool things you've done for the state of South Carolina over the last couple of years?
So yeah, it did open a lot of pathways. Number one, the local technical college was constantly knocking on the door. Can you do a webinar for this? Can you do a webinar for that? Just because they were having a difficult time getting businesses to agree to do apprenticeships. So I tried to help with that. And then with, of course, the Department of Labor being one of the only voices here in the state of South Carolina, trying to get that word out between them and Apprenticeship Carolina. I also had opportunities with them. I sat on the Employers Council with Apprenticeship Carolina. This past year, I partnered with them to do a statewide initiative for apprenticeships in cybersecurity. We just did that in November. I think it was November 9th. And that was to bring awareness not just to cybersecurity businesses of what a viable way apprenticeships are for them, but it was also to bring awareness to IT companies and to other companies who, you may be large enough to have your own IT division, or you may have one or two cybersecurity experts on your team. Well, this is also another opportunity for them to train someone that you may not have thought of. You may be in manufacturing and you have 3 people in a cybersecurity department within your company. Well, apprenticeship is an excellent way for one of them to mentor either someone who is reskilling, upskilling, or new to the industry. You take your pick. But it gave them an opportunity to see, hey, I hadn't even thought of this. We have apprenticeships, in this department. I never even thought about putting them in cybersecurity because I thought, that was for a cybersecurity company. So we were able to open those doors of opportunity. I recently spoke with Apprenticeship Carolina, and they said that they have registered several apprenticeship programs due to that statewide initiative. And there are several more that they're working to finish up. So I would say that was a success. So we've had that. And of course, the nice appointment as a co-chair with you for the community of interest for apprenticeships in cybersecurity. So there's been numerous opportunities, speaking engagements. We've spoke with ISC Square. We spoke with InfoSec World, numerous different platforms, Education Business Summit. I just got invited to speak at the Governor Cybersecurity Summit with, I believe, you and someone else.
We'll see, maybe.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I think that's just the state of South Carolina. I want to say both Carolinas have done a really good job of leaning into this idea of apprenticeship, and I think both states have made good investments into the concept, and it's resulting in job creation and opportunities for individuals, and all positive things. You were very humble. You had another, so we have a joint partner, SAFL Partners. For those that don't know, they're a national Department of Labor intermediary, and they do a lot of great work in standard creation and kind of consulting with companies that might be like McLeod Information Systems, and trying to explore what this means for them, right? Like that's a really important part of just where do I start? Where do I begin? Who do I turn to? My rule of advice there is the department. We've worked with several states now across the country, and every state has been fantastic, right? There's a vested interest, and this is a concept that is now 3 substantially different administrations later, right? And apprenticeship is still at the core and a focal point so it's become really political party agnostic, which is fantastic. And it's been great to see that the consistent theme there really is apprenticeship is a vessel, and it's a great pathway for individuals for upward mobility and access to high-paying jobs. It doesn't require a college education or several tens of thousands of dollars of student loan debt, right, that would come into it. So it's a great segue, because you also have the opportunity to go up to the White House, right, and do some, to talk about your program there, right? So probably, I know we had a chance to go up. It was 2 different events over in November around National Apprenticeship Week and kind of closing out the sprint. And it was it was neat to see so many, people from across the country that had come together in that instance of just, that had a core concept that, rallied everybody around that, with this concept being apprenticeship. But you also had an opportunity to go up to the White House and, what was, I want to say, what was that like? Because you got talked at and you left, right? But in the grand scheme, like, what was, elaborate a little bit more of kind of what was the topic for that one, and how did that go?
It was a wrap up of all the different, I guess the results of what the National Sprint, cybersecurity sprint, had done. I mean, honestly, it's just my core nature. Whenever I see that that there was an opportunity, as soon as they announced that there was going to be a sprint, I immediately contacted Apprenticeship Carolina. Hey, how can we get this word out statewide? And contacted our Department of Commerce, and I said, hey, what can we do to promote this as well within the Department of Commerce? I didn't think they were going to turn it back on me and say, can you help? But they did. So we did the statewide event. We did a series of 3 different webinars for the Department of Commerce. And of course, there were speaking engagements at InfoSec World. There was also one at ISC Square. We brought the Department of Labor into those different environments, which they had not previously been a part of. So that opened up those opportunities. And honestly, like I said, that's just my nature. And I didn't realize that was a lot. Sounds silly, but I didn't. So when I was invited to the White House, they said it was in honor of all the efforts that I had put in place during the sprint. So I was very honored, because like I said, that was just within my nature to do that. I didn't even think anything about what one person, the strides that they were making to help push that initiative. And so honestly, I was very honored to be able to be invited, mainly because I truly, truly did not expect to be invited.
Yeah, it's I've enjoyed just seeing the growth, right? And Debbie and I have had a front row seat over the last 12 to 18 months through the work over at NICE, and we're the proud owners of the largest community of interest that NICE happens to run. So, and the idea of the group is, we come together once a month, and it really, our group is very fortunate. So if you're interested in the world of apprenticeship, and you are an organization, and so if you're an individual who wants to get into an apprenticeship, reach out to either one of us, and we can point you in the right direction. But not necessarily the right group for those individuals, but we do have a lot of folks that pop in and want to do it. But the goal is for the group is to come together, advocate, evangelize, and just share best practices, right? Our group is very lucky. We have representatives from the Department of Labor that join us every single week, or every single month, sorry, to give updates of things that are happening nationally that we wouldn't have exposure to. So that's a great opportunity for everybody who participates. We also have intermediary partners that join us, so that they can also share things that they've got going on, and they were working on a couple projects for this upcoming calendar year. Because the goal is, we always want to make sure that we're creating good thought leadership in this space around apprenticeship, because the group wants to drive it and have wider adoption. And so that's why I think, today, I appreciate you joining us on this discussion, because it is an important piece, and it is, apprenticeship for small companies, big companies. It doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be hard, right? And nothing that you said, about how your program is structured necessarily, to me, directly resulted in more work for either of you, right? More work that would be beyond something you probably wouldn't have already done for somebody else that you would have hired, right? There's a level of passion that you both, I think, bring to your employees. If there was some, we're not, and just I want to set the stage here real quick. So after we ended last session with Emily, a big part of it, I was like, man, like what is a question I can ask every single guest, right? That there's just a consistency and make it not necessarily cybersecurity or apprenticeship centric, right? Because you guys are going to see as these start to come out, and I've got the next couple posted already. We're going to run a wide range of topics on these LinkedIn Lives, right? So in a couple of weeks, we're going to talk about online safety for kids, right? That's something I don't know that I've really seen a whole lot of content about. We all know and we want to do what's right for our kids, but like the internet's a scary world, and it's easy just to here, little Billy, here's a phone, be good and stay out of trouble. So but there's some things that you as a parent can do for safety. We're going to talk, dive into apprenticeship and dive into technical stuff and networking. So what was a consistent question we could ask? But before I jump to that question, we're building the intensity and excitement of this. If I'm a company that's out there and like just exploring this world of apprenticeship, what's a nugget of wisdom that you would provide for somebody of to nudge them, push them off the cliff, and just jump into the deep end of the pool for the apprenticeship pool? What would you suggest?
To jump into the apprenticeship pool. Whenever it pertains to apprenticeships, honestly, especially with apprenticeships, I've heard myself repeat this numerous times. Never underestimate honestly, the power of your passion to do that. When your heart feels that this is something that I need to do, that passion will carry you a long ways. And also, do not underestimate the power of your knowledge. A lot of times especially when I dove into this, I thought, boy, am I getting it over my head. But that passion fuel, it coupled with the knowledge that I had, is a great fuel for pushing you forward.
It's a great answer, and a great tee up for kind of the last question I'll have for the day is, what is a piece of advice that you would give to somebody listening to this today, maybe for their career, or what advice you'd share with them?
Again, never underestimate that power of your knowledge, because a lot of times we can be intimidated by something, but then once you step into it, you start realizing, oh, well, I understand this better than I thought. And when we question ourselves, we also pull ourselves back from having that true power for success. So don't underestimate the power of your knowledge. You just never know until you try.
Well, imposter syndrome is legit and for real. And I know we cover a lot of that in our monthly mentor meetups and our professional development sessions, because it is, it could be a scary subject. There's a lot of endless opportunities and ways in which you could crack it. So I could see where that could be overwhelming for a lot of folks of just jumping in of like, where do I start? Where do I begin? So, with that, I truly appreciate you joining us today. A plug for everybody for the next couple sessions. So next week we have Gary Chan. Gary is a security mentalist. He is an incredible human we've known for the last several years. He happens to be a CISO for a healthcare system here in St. Louis. And he's got a very unique approach, I think, to interviewing individuals, and a unique approach, I think, of helping folks, maybe avoid some of the pitfalls that Debbie just described around that idea of imposter syndrome. So, we're going to cover some interview best practices and ways for individuals to jump in and just understand this better. So very exciting guest for him. And then the following week after that, we're going to have our very own Bailey Ranella from our team. And we felt like this was a great way and a great platform for everybody to meet the incredible team that works here at CyberUp every day, the behind the curtain folks that actually make this go, right, and help find jobs for folks. So you'll get a chance to meet them throughout the year. But Bailey and I have known each other for quite a few years in different worlds, and the core aspect of that relationship really was centered around just networking. So we're going to talk about the importance of networking and how it can really thrust your career, your job search, and everything into the future and really help you be successful for the long term. So with that, Debbie, thank you so much for joining us today. I really do appreciate the friendship. I appreciate, you and Rodney's commitment and passion towards apprenticeship. I look forward to having a great 2023 with you guys.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I look forward to what this year holds for both of us too. I see a lot of success coming our ways.
Well, thank you guys so much.